Hello, my Sagittarian, and welcome now to Astro Extra Uranus in Aries. A very powerful moment in our spiritual history, a very powerful trend now in the changes of your life. Now, watch the introduction video that talks about what Uranus is and what Aries is, and kind of defines those in broader strokes. And in this video, we're going to talk about how it affects you more specifically. But before we talk about Uranus in Aries, let's talk about Uranus in Pisces, the 7-year transit we just wrapped up here in the last week. Now, Pisces for you is your home, family, and foundation state of awareness. Basically, Sagittariuses are Pisces when it comes to who they are at home. Very easygoing, non-judgmental, the house is kind of a mess, right? And the way you take care of yourself, kind of a mess. Well, in 2003, Uranus entered into Pisces, and it said to Sagittarians, it is time to innovate your self-nurturing, the way you take care of yourself. And prior to that, most Sagittariuses I know were really half-assed about how they take care of themselves. I mean, they would go, party for 4 days, then recover. In fact, that's probably how I would define your self-nurturing. Recovery. Sagittariuses would recover and bring themselves back to health, but as far as keeping a solid state of health and balance, not in the Sag vocabulary. So look at how well your home and family situation evolved from 2003 to 2010. How have you begun to nurture yourself differently? How has your living situation evolved? Do you now have a place? Do you have furniture now? Or maybe before you didn't have furniture, you were just sleeping on a cot. Do you tolerate things in your home environment that you didn't used to, or vice versa? That's what changed. And overall, what changed was your overall sense of survival and security. In 2003, you probably had a very chaotic survival streak where it was kind of hit and miss. Now, ideally, you're in a state where no matter what happens, you should feel that you can count on you to survive, that you can count on you to take care of yourself. And that is a huge spiritual evolution in 7 years, right? You might have also gone through an early childhood change where you faced your parents or you faced the people that affected you in childhood, and you kind of renegotiated those soul contracts, or you renegotiated how they will treat you or not treat you in that sense. And some of you might have even had children. A lot of people have children during an early childhood transit because through their children's eyes, they're reliving their own childhood. Well, now Uranus is in Aries. And Aries, first of all, is our source of strength and courage. It is also where our ego is developed. So for Sagittarians, the Aries consciousness rules your heart chakra. It is from a Sagittarius' heart that they feel strong. It is from a Sagittarius' heart that they get their courage. Very romantic in a way, kind of like a Disney film. And it is from your inner child that your ego is developed. That's why Sagittariuses have a childlike ego. That's why Sagittariuses have what we call the Peter Pan syndrome. Sagittariuses tend to not want to grow up, okay? It's because Aries rules your inner child. But by this point, with Uranus entering Aries, it's been 86 years since the last time Uranus was in Aries, so it's been 86 years since that Sagittarius inner child has been forced to grow up. That's not really fully true. I'll explain why maybe in another video. But overall, it's time to innovate your relationship to your heart chakra. So the most dramatic experiences of a transit are in the first 4 to 5 degrees of the planet in that sign, so in the first chapter. That takes us up to 2012. Between now and 2012, March of 2012, Sagittarians will be going through inner child breakdowns. So if there's areas of your life that prevent you from being in joy, prevent you from being in your heart, those areas will break down. If you have a job that you work 90 hours a week on and you never get a chance to play or have a good time, that job will break down. If you're in a loveless relationship where you're not in your heart and there's no butterflies, that will break down. If you are continually hard on yourself and never let yourself enjoy anything, if you're the type of person that goes, oh, I'll play once the work is done, but then as soon as the work is done, you add more work, and then you add more work, and then you add more work, and there's never that play period, then something will break down that will prevent you from doing all that work. In the first 5 degrees, you'll be breaking down any quality of life, any relationship, any commitment will break down that's in the way of your inner child coming forward. The other thing that will break down are aspects of your inner child as far as your damaged inner child. So for instance, a lot of people who have damaging childhoods, right, who were beaten up as a kid or abused, that sort of thing, what happens is that inner child, that heart chakra consciousness, builds defense mechanisms. And those defense mechanisms are designed for you not to be hurt again. But at this stage, those defense mechanisms might be in the way of getting back to the purity of that child. So for instance, maybe you developed as an early child a smart-ass, smart-aleck, kind of sarcastic voice, where you're always sarcastic. Yeah, I bet that'll happen. Oh, sure, one day, yeah, I bet, la, la. That kind of sarcastic voice, which is a defense mechanism to the inner child, right? Well, that defense mechanism will break down now. Any defense mechanism you designed as a child to protect the child will now break down itself. So, as an easy example, maybe everyone knows you're sarcastic, maybe everyone knows you shoot your mouth off, maybe you've always shot your mouth off, but for some reason, once Uranus goes into Aries, you're not going to get away with it. Your boss will be like, you know what, intolerable, you're fired. So you find out you're getting fired or shut down or that sort of thing from your defense mechanism. So defense mechanisms that protect the inner child will break down. What the universe is doing is exposing your raw heart chakra in the next 4 years. Whatever it takes to bring out that child and expose it will happen. And so that means there will be periods of vulnerability. That means that all these lessons you learned on taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself in the last 7 years will be absolutely necessary to soothe the inner child going on with its breakdown. The other aspect that will start to happen is creativity. Our connection to our heart is our connection to love. Love and creativity are the same vibration, believe it or not. Love is a creative force. We don't talk about it that way, but that's really the truth. So a lot of times people will discover their creativity. For those of you who are meant to be creative, in other words, part of your soul contract was to come into creativity in this lifetime, you may have aspects that break down that prevent you from creativity. So for instance, if you are a factory worker, working and just doing factory work over and over again, and your life does not allow for creativity, you might get fired or laid off and find yourself on unemployment where you're at home doing nothing but being creative, doing noodle art, finding your creativity. So whatever negative happens in the next 4 years, you have to ask yourself, was that an aspect of my life that prevented me from being in love, being creative, or living in my heart? And then after 2012, once we get on to the late stages of Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3, you will now begin to stand in your heart. This will be the discovery of, well, what do I love? What do I enjoy? What does my inner child really want to do or be? This is the discovery of your creative self. And most importantly, this is the discovery of your personal dreams. I dream of being this. I dream of being that. That's your heart. That's what you love. So the universe is going to be getting Sagittariuses back onto the course of their personal dreams by breaking down what's in the way, putting you in touch with what your heart really is, then helping you innovate your personal dreams and take your personal dreams to the next level. What's happening beneath all of these lessons is you are innovating your love for yourself. As you put your path, your life path, on a path of loving life, you are actually putting yourself into a place of loving yourself. When you do loving things for yourself, you are loving yourself. When you do and put your place into loving experiences, you are falling in love with yourself. The more you love life, the more you love yourself, it just snowballs and becomes bigger and bigger. And if you want an example of a soul that does this really well, Leos. Leos love themselves from the day they are born. Sometimes they deny it, sometimes it's damaged, sometimes there's issues, but they're in love with themselves. And basically in the next 7 years, Sagittariuses are in essence getting back in touch with their heart chakra and falling in love with themselves, maybe for the first time in your life. All right, Sag, that's all I have for this Astro Extra, but I will be back next time the planets shift this big again. Until then, live, love, be.
So garden down.